All right. So I would like to start this meeting. This is a meet and greet for the candidates. This is not a debate. So let me just give you a few reminders. This meeting is open to the public via the web or over the phone. Only the 3 board members that are part of the election committee will appear on the screen, as well as the candidates who are brought in as panelists. Everyone else is muted except when given the floor. All members of the public may provide comment to the board on the agenda item for public comment. The president will allow people to speak upon asked when we're giving questions. Please use your raised hand and I will let you speak at that time. If you are using the phone, please use #9 to raise your hand, and then I will allow you to speak as well. Like I said, this is a very informal meet and greet. I'd like it to be friendly. I'd like you to all be considerate of each other and know that this meeting is being recorded for people to view. Do we have any questions or final comments to be asked before we begin? I have one question. And my question is, who will be speaking on behalf of Christina at the initial thank you, Voss? I needed to find that out. So thank you very much. All right. And I'm good with that. So thank you for bringing that in. At this time, we are going to start. We're going to be doing a 2-minute presentation. At this time, when you do your presentation, I'd like you to state your name. I'd like you to certify how that you were certified with the city to run as the member at large and give your opening 2-minute statement. I will be letting you know that, because I will be keeping a timer for our 2 minutes. You'll hear me say 30 seconds. Please be cognitive that everybody, I'd like you to stay within your 2-minute period. If you run over trying to finish out your sentence, I'll allow that, but if you carry over too long, I'm going to end up muting you. We need to be cognitive of everybody else's time as permitted. Any questions? Lori, oh, I'm sorry, Lori has some updates, please. Feel free, Lori.
Do you want to call roll first or no?
We don't need to call roll on this meeting because this is just, it's not a, we can.
Verify that.
Yeah,
And
there's only 3 of us.
Yeah, before we start, I just wanted to go over what is an open at large representative seat. These are seats that are defined as stakeholders who are 18 years of age or older, live, work, or own real property, or declare a stake in the neighborhood as a community interest stakeholder. They're defined as a person who affirms a substantial and ongoing participation within the community or a community organization that has continuously maintained a physical street address for not less than 1 year, and that performs ongoing and verifiable activities and operations that benefit the neighborhood, and is located within the neighborhood council's boundaries. It is a for-profit entity and should not qualify as a community organization. I'm sorry, a for-profit entity should not qualify as a community organization. The qualifications to vote for that seat are stakeholders who live, work, or own property, or own a city registered business within the physical location of the PRNC boundaries and are 16 years of age or older. There is one certified candidate who is running for the seat that is below, and what is he called? I'm sorry, lost my
open.
And that is Luis Ramirez to run for that seat. I'm sorry, I don't have that definition correct. I'll have to change that. Pardon me, but I don't believe he's here.
Would you like me to read that for you?
Do you have it? That's not what I have. It's not correct what I have.
Okay, give me 1 second. I have it. Okay. Oh, the open seat is a community interest stakeholder that lives, works, and owns property in the Northwest or has a substantial ongoing participation in the community organization with physical presence in the Quarter Ranch for at least 1 year. It's a 4-year term. 1 seat was available and 1 candidate ran for it.
And I don't believe he's here at this time, but we can continue. All right.
Was that right or wrong? That's what I had. Okay. On that note, I would like to, if the candidates don't have a problem with that, what I'd like to do is do alphabetical order. then I'd like to do from the middle and then go backwards. So everybody has a chance to lead, if that's okay with everybody. So at that time, I mean, I think if I'm not mistaken, the only candidates that we have at this time is Assad, Voss, Gabriel, Sherry, Brandy, Becky. Who am I missing? Jason? Can you unmute yourself since you're co-host? Thank you.
I think you named everybody.
Okay, very good. Okay, then we're gonna go ahead and start. Let me get my. You know what? I'm sorry.
Well, they're going to do introductions, right?
Yeah, but you know what? I know that my agenda said a roll call, but let's stick to the agenda. My apology. We'll go ahead and do the roll call. Please, Lori, just to stick with the agenda.
Okay, David Lasher.
No, just stick with who's supposed to be here. You, me, and
Who's supposed to be
Jason.
here? I have Brandy Grace, candidate. Becky Levesque, candidate. Gabriel, I'm sorry, Conlian. That's how I say it, Gabriel Conlian, is a candidate. Assad Al-Najjar, candidate. Lloyd, I don't have his last name. Berryman Jr. Berryman. He's a candidate. He's not here yet. He will be late. Christine is not going to be here. I believe Voss is going to read for her a statement. And Sherry Derholrian is here. And Luis Ramirez is absent at this point. And Voss Singh is here. Lillian Brick Malinsky is missing.
Got it. Thank you. And then you, myself, and Jason are all here.
Yes.
Great. All right. And do we have any elected officials that would like to make comment before we move forward? I'm so excited for this forum. I missed my whole agenda. All right, and then we'll move on with that. Then we have public comment. Is there anybody who'd like to give public comment in the attendee list? Please raise your hand and I'll allow you to speak on the floor. Very good. Oh, David Lasher. David Lasher, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say welcome to all the candidates, our incumbents and new candidates. And I think it's a great opportunity for the public to have a chance to ask questions and listen to their statements. And it's certainly very important that we participate in this process and have the opportunity to hear them. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Lasher. All right, on that note, let's go ahead and start with the candidates. I'm going to turn the floor over for 2 minutes to Assad. Please, once again, introduce yourself. How are you certified with the City of Los Angeles to run as a member at large, and give your opening statement?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Assad Al-Najjar. I'm a father, a civil structural professional engineer who has been working for the City of LA for over 32 years. And I have been qualified for this position running as the Porter Ranch resident since 2003. I have joined the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council immediately after the Alicia Canyon blowout, as I wanted to help the community as a board member rather than a stakeholder in every way possible. I currently serve as the vice president of the PRNC within the goal of serving not only Porter Ranch, but the whole CD12 and part of my continued services in the city of LA. I'm also currently the chair of the Safety and the Transit Committee, the Bylaws Committee, and member of Sustainability, Air Monitoring, Ad Hoc, and other committees. I always worked for a 100% green Porter Ranch, starting with the solar panels I installed along Carbon and Porter Ranch Drive to the enhanced park trees canopies. Once re-elected, I will be able to continue working for you at the Alicia Canyon closures, the gas monitoring system, the homelessness issue, the safety and traffic measures, enhanced LAUSD safe routes to schools, improve the way of our living, and to bridge the gap to the city services and maintenance issues. Since I moved to Porter Ranch in 2003, I've been active within the Porter Ranch community and CD12 as a whole, and for many of the community services and the projects, and
30 seconds.
with my Mayor Garcetti programs into interfaith, sustainability, resilience, a bridge home, Vision Zero, and accessing LA. I have worked on multi large scaling engineering projects in the city of LA, and I'm brought to Porter Ranch, the EV chargers, the LED upgrades, and I'm currently doing 35 citywide light rail rapid bus systems. Remember my name, Asad Al-Najjar. I'm the only one who can really deliver results and accomplish, and once re-elected, I complete on the path I started on. Thank
Thank
you
you very much. Give me 1 second, Becky, to reset my timer.
I got the timer if you want.
Why didn't you say so earlier?
It wasn't ready. Now it's ready.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Becky Levesque.
Let her unmute. I can't hear her yet.
Becky, can you unmute yourself? Let's try again. Why is it not? Jason, can you unmute her? You're co-host, Jace.
I'm trying. I put ask to unmute.
Becky, try and unmute yourself. You're on mute. You're unmuted. Oh. Jason. All right, Jason, I got to take you off co-host.
I'm doing ask to unmute. Don't blame me.
I'm not. Don't worry, Becky. You still got all the time. We're just. Why isn't it?
You want to come back to her?
No, it's her turn. So. That's interesting. Jason, I'm going to pull you off co-host, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Let me just figure out what's going on here. Stand by, everybody. Becky, can you try and unmute yours? Let me try Sherry. Sherry, would you unmute your, please?
Am I good now?
You're good. There you go. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
There we go. We're good.
No one's ever
Minute.
tried to unmute me before. That'll be the first time.
You've got the floor.
My name's Becky Levesque, and since I was a child, it was my dream to move to Porter Ranch. Once my dream, now a reality. I've been fortunate enough to live in Porter Ranch since 1979. My late husband, David, and I, we have 3 sons and 8 grandchildren. Our children all attended the Castle Bay Lane Elementary School at a time in the 80s when we needed another school. I'm proud to say our goals were achieved and the doors were open to the Porter Ranch Community School about 10 years ago, which spans kindergarten through 8th grade and was open to be enjoyed by all of the many generations of the past, present, and future to come. I am a neighborhood watch community policing advocate and the co-founder, along with Councilman Greg Smith and LAPD Devonshire Captain Vance Proctor, of Supporters of Law Enforcement in Devonshire. I currently hold a position as an honorary board member. I would like to reach out to our senior activities and to our senior community and create some activities for parks. I believe it's important to be relevant to the community that we serve. My goals are as follows: to shut down Aliso Canyon gas storage facility, to reopen schools safely for our children as soon as possible and businesses, and to continue to build and enhance safe communities for all of those who reside here in Porter Ranch.
30 seconds.
Diversity and unity is our goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Becky. Next up will be Brandy. Let me unmute you. Go ahead, Brandy. Jason, are you ready?
Go ahead, Brandy.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody for setting this up and letting us be here today. I'm Brandy Grace, running for re-election as a resident and mother of a Castle Bay child. I am chair of the Homeless Solutions Committee and an active member of both the Education and Outreach Committees. I see it as my responsibility to represent and support our community. For me, that has meant running events, spending hours in the sun cleaning our parks, visiting our local businesses to check in with their needs, walking all over with Susan Gorman Chang to survey and document every single public space for the city, and accompanying stakeholders to precarious encampments. But of everything I've done, the most important thing I have done and continue to do is to listen to our community stakeholders and advocate for them as much as possible. That can mean a whole host of different issues to be taken up. And in some cases, it just means something as simple as being there to listen, be a shoulder to cry on, acknowledge their issues, and sometimes just say thank you when they do the hard work. Again, I'm Brandy Grace. I'm running for re-election. I hope I have your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. Chair Darahanian, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Sherry Darahanian, and I just love Porter Ranch. I'm a stakeholder because I teach music part-time. I teach both violin and guitar in the Porter Ranch area. I lived in Porter Ranch for 15 years with my children and husband. My kids attended both Castle Bay and Porter Ranch Community School. I previously served on the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council from 2014 to 2017. One of the main reasons I ran was to maintain a high quality of life, improve our schools by adding cultural arts and electives at PRCS, and also bring art fairs and concerts in the park to our lovely community. But about a year into my term on the PRNC, the largest gas blowout in US history occurred right in the hills above our lovely community. I attended every single abatement hearing, went to the AQMD meetings, Board of Supervisors meetings, testified about the horrible tragedy that affected all of us here in the North Valley. I even flew to Sacramento and testified at the California Air Resources Board. I campaigned to get our own Henry Stern, state senator, elected back in 2016, as he was such a great advocate for our community. 5.5 years later, here we are trying to get the Department of Public Health to do our community right and get a quality-based, patient-based health study up off the ground. My goal is to bring unity, respect, and diversity back to PRNC.
30 seconds.
Our community leaders, we can bring this Porter Ranch community back to where it was. Our health, safety, well-being, and quality of life must be preserved. Together, we will listen to the community's needs and do what we can to bring a positive change to our lives. We will rebuild relationships within our elected officials, work with the council office to get things done. I believe in safety, diversity, and unity in 2021. My name is Sherry Darahanian. Please vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Voss, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and speak on behalf of Christina at this time.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Gabriel, you ready? 2
So,
minutes.
I'm reading this for Christine, and this says, my name is Christine Demercian, and I sincerely regret my inability to attend this forum and the opportunity of meeting several members of our community today. I appreciate Mr. Voss reading this statement on my behalf in my absence. I am a proud resident and homeowner in Porter Ranch and also a business owner. I have lived in the area since I was born, and my husband and I decided this is the community we want to raise our baby and growing family in. In my opinion, there is no better community out there, and we have so much potential in growing and developing this amazing city even more. I never considered doing anything like this, but there are a few areas I want to focus on as they have become areas of concern for me, like the growing RV and homelessness issue. Although I feel great empathy for those individuals, we need to direct those individuals to the proper resources and facilities that can better assist them or help them get back on their feet. All while maintaining a safe and clean community for our families and keeping our investments intact. Also, many other exciting things that will bring fun and culture, which are much needed. I have had the opportunity to join an amazing slate of 5 individuals who are Voss Singh, Gabriel Canlian, Becky Lavac, and Sherry Derohian. We all collectively have so much to offer this community as individuals. And as a group, as we each have our own set of contact, work and life experience and dedication, which we plan to put into the PRNC. What makes us unique is unlike many passport groups and members who were never aligned, which caused great conflict and at the end of the day affected outcomes of what went into our community. We are completely aligned and we want to bring the board back to the community where we are working with you, for you,
That's
and
time.
with your input
You
and
can
course
finish.
with full transparency. Thank you.
Thank you, Voss.
Okay.
Thank you, Jason. Okay. And this, at this time, I'd like to unmute Gabriel.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Porter Ranch. If you don't know me by now, my name is Gabriel Kanyan. I am happily married with 3 kids. I live in Porter Ranch and my pride and joy is Porter Ranch. My email address is porterranchca@hotmail.com. Feel free to email me anytime. I have served on the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council for the past 5 years. I am 100% pro-safety and was the co-chair of safety committee until I was mysteriously removed behind closed doors an hour after I announced my slate. That will not stop me from helping during fires, earthquakes, blowouts, street racing, crime, and I'm here for the people and to serve you. I was there when the nation's biggest natural gas leak blowout happened in Porter Ranch and was fighting for the community from day one. I do believe that we should have an unbiased health study. I'm very pro air monitoring in Porter Ranch for our safety, your safety, and our kids' safety and our quality of life. No one should ever have to go through what Porter Ranch and the neighboring communities went through. I believe in 100% equality and unity. I will never treat anyone any different because of their faith, color, religion, sex, or just because. I'm very active in many other Porter Ranch committees, including being the president of governing board at Porter Ranch Community School and president of my HOA, as I believe being an active participant keeps Porter Ranch safer, healthier, cleaner, and gives my ability to have a much needed say in bringing resources back to the community. Through the years, I have learned to listen and fight for what the community wants. With my experience, I will continue to fight to improve the quality of life in our city, as this is our home and our future. Strong leadership is what is needed to keep our city safe, clean, and preserve family and home values. I support my slate of 5 as we will fight together for you, Porter Ranch. 5 voices together is better than 1 voice, which can and will work towards getting what you want. I have done a lot for the community in the past 5 years, and together, imagine how much we can achieve as one. Safety, diversity, and unity 2021. We are the Florida future. Thank you again, everyone. I do have another event to go to, I believe, in a few minutes. Anybody have any questions, feel free to email me anytime.
Thank you for your time, Gabriel.
Thank you.
Voss, you have the floor again. So thank you, Voss.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vas Singh. I live in Porter Ranch. I'm running to work to improve the way of life and keep Porter Ranch a beautiful, clean, and a safe neighborhood. I work for the city of Los Angeles. I have excellent relationships with various government offices, departments, and agencies. If elected, I will work to raise the bar in Porter Ranch to make it a better community to live in with quality growth, infrastructure, public safety, and to ensure that our community gets its fair share of city services. I have served on the board of Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council for 8 years, served on the Outreach, Public Safety, and Go Green Committee, and I was chair of Speakers Bureau at PRNC. And I have also served on Planning Committee of the Congress of Neighborhoods, Planning Committee of the First Valley Regional Congress, Neighborhood Council Plan Review and Reform Initiative Committee, and I was one of the 2 members of the Mayor's North Valley Budget Advocate. I have regularly attended Department of Neighbor and Empowerment, done meetings, mayoral budget meeting and other meeting and city liaison. I will work towards the replacement of sound walls along the 119 freeway between Reseda and Tampa in priority for our community, with multiple developers adding 1,800 plus homes in this community. Traffic usage and noise has increased significantly. I hope replacing outdated infrastructure is included in the vision of the new PRNC board. This has been an issue to address for many years. I will work to connect the various junior associations and parent associations so that a unified voice for all of the Porter Ranch can be heard and well received at the City Hall. And I will like to serve more community members, attend the monthly meeting and committee meetings. I am open to the community. I may be reached through my email, and that is here to serve you 2021@yahoo.com. And gentlemen, I have got to attend another meeting and I would like to be excused. Thank you.
Thank you, Voss. On that note, then we're going to go into our first questions. Jason, would you like to take over the first question?
Sure.
And just so you know where we're at, because we're going to go reverse. So it would be Sherry, Gabriel, then Voss, if he's still here, and then it would go Brandy, Becky, Assad, going backwards. So.
And then also at this time, we should let everybody know who's a participant or attendee, I should say. They can submit questions via the Q&A, and Lori will be reading them. And after we finish the prepared questions, we will move on to questions from the community. So I'll go ahead and begin with the prepared questions. So neighborhood council board members allocate significant amounts of time of their personal free time to council business, with weekends, including events, various meetings, as well as there's lots of operational tasks involved in running a neighborhood council. So the question would be, how much time are you able to dedicate per week or per month to Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council activities? And then David, if you could do the order, who's first?
Yeah. Sherry, since we're going to start from the middle. Sherry, would you like to start?
Sure, thank you.
2 minutes.
My name's Sherry Darrow-Hunnion. I can devote as much time as needed. In the past, I put in 8 to 9 hours per week minimum. I attended the disaster preparedness meetings once a month. I attended VANC. I was the BOM rep, and I also went to Sustainability Alliance meetings. In addition to that, I listened to the concerns of the parents. I was the parent liaison during the school relocation right after the gas leak, spending many a time going to parent meetings in the evenings. I have time to spend on that. My children are now 18, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make this community better. Thank you. By the way, I'm sorry, I do have a meeting at 3:30, so I will also have to leave. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Are we doing 2 minutes for the answers, David? Or
Yes, we are.
okay.
At least, because if everybody has to zoom out, then that's fine. I'd like to give everybody a time to speak before they run off. Gabriel, would you like to, is Gabriel gone already? Gabriel's gone. Okay. Gone. Okay. Then Voss is gone. And then would be from the Assad. Would you like to take the 2 minutes?
Yes, thank you. So in addition to our usual monthly PRNC meetings and sharing the safety and the bylaws and participating in the air monitoring ad hocs and sustainability, I average also extra hours outside the PRNC limits. On average, I spend about 5 to 6 meetings per week outside the required council, averaging about, so if you take 50 weeks, I average about 250 meetings. And if you take about 3 hours per meeting, 750 a year. On the past 5 years, my path has been between 20 hours a week for a slow week, up to like 40, 45 hours a week for a fast-tracked week. I'm representing and heavily involved in the VANC and the BONC also, and I attend a lot of the neighboring council safety committee meetings, the bylaws committees for the neighboring councils, the public affairs meeting. I even attend a lot of the Chatsworth Chamber of Commerce. I attend all the CAG meetings, the DPH meetings, county, whatever webinars. When we had a lot of issues with the Alicio Canyon, I attended mostly Dr. Nordella's webinars and others. And in addition, I am very active with the Devonshire LAPD CPAP and within LAFD CERT, trying to get people trained. I think the only one person I see more active than me in the whole system is probably our buddy Glenn Bailey. But I not only deliver services with quality, with the least required amount, with the task right on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Becky, would you like to take the floor? Unmute yourself. There you are. Unmute yourself. There you are. Good.
Okay, am I there? Okay,
Perfect.
I'll whatever time it takes for the task assigned, I have the time to dedicate to it. I think all of you who are on this already know the stuff I've been involved in, so I don't really need to pat myself on the back, and I'll just leave it at that. Whatever it takes.
Thank you, Becky. Brandy Grace.
Well, I have enough time. I'm one of the 3 people that are still here. So congratulations to us. Yeah, I mean, I've been serving, gosh, for years now, not just here, but at another neighborhood council previously. And I've always been able to carve out time as busy as I can be, mother with a small child and teaching college classes and all my community volunteer work. This has always been a priority for me. So I'm able to carve out the time that I need because this is a priority. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask the next question, and we're going to go reverse. So we will start, we can start with you, Brandy, going backwards, which is going to be, this is regarding homelessness, believe it or not. Homelessness is visible throughout the entire city of Los Angeles and the country. What are your views on homelessness, and how would you like to see changes made?
Oh, I'd love more than 2 minutes for this one because I
I
have a lot of
I know
thoughts.
you would, but it's so funny that it came up on this, and this is where I wanted to start my next questioning. So
Right as I'm starting. Yeah, so for anybody who doesn't know, I've been very actively involved in trying to address LA's homelessness crisis for many years. And I can tell you the biggest problem is that it's a very complicated issue. We are dealing with everything from homeless veterans and senior citizens to people with mental illness and substance abuse to whole families that have been, and people, a large number of people who are simply displaced by work issues. And the problem is that in the wake of COVID-19, every study indicates this is about to get much, much worse. One national study said we could have as many as 40 million new homeless in the US. That's about 5 states suddenly being homeless. Prior to COVID, there was a study that said about 750,000 people in Los Angeles were only one problem or one failed paycheck away from homelessness, and then COVID. So we're expecting a surge on this. And unfortunately, even if we had all the affordable housing we needed, which we don't, our city and county services are woefully insufficient. David Balin and I were just trying to help a poor woman very recently who had soiled herself and was hanging out in front of a business bothering people, but she couldn't even remember her own name. And even with our combined resources, it was almost impossible to get her the kind of immediate help that she needed. We got a runaround, and I've told people if we handled our homelessness, our police services the way we handle homelessness services, you call, there's someone who's broken into my house, and they'd be going, okay, if you think they have a knife, call this number. If you think they have a gun, call this number. That's not okay. And that's the first thing that I want to address, and actually very immediately. So I have more to say, but I'll stop there.
thank you, Brandy. Brandy and I have we have so much heart for it. Becky. The same
Well,
question.
I have a heart. Am I there?
Yes.
I have a big heart for the homeless as well. And I have actually helped a lot of homeless people. I don't talk about it. What do I feel that we need to do? I think that we need to change the laws that will, so that they will allow us to help those who can't help themselves. It's heartbreaking to see what's taking place. It's heartbreaking. Brandy, I commend you for leading the parade on our neighborhood council. I think it's very important. I think we need to be proactive. I loved what Susan did. I love that she participated and that she actually fed people. One of the directions that I'd like to take is, what can we do for them? We've been told, stay away, don't approach. Can we give them dinner? Can we not give them dinner? What can we do? Can we have a day in the park where we offer them food? You know, feed them. Can we do that? Are we legally allowed to? I saw a man pass away behind my office who was standing in the street in his underwear. He's probably in his 80s, throwing things at cars, who eventually died. They tried to do a 72-hour hold. After 72 hours, he was out and he died. And it's heartbreaking. I think the laws need to be amended and changed. I think we can do everything we want on our end, but if they don't want to go, they're not going to go. And that's what I have to say. I'm very passionate about homelessness.
Thank you, Becky. Assad, you have the floor, 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you. Well, as PRNC board members, we have done and participated in Connect Days. I joined with our homeless chair, Brandy, in the Connect Days under the umbrella of CD12, and I brought along my 2 daughters, and I believe David was there, Mehran, and we served food to the homeless. We helped them getting clothing and getting documentation and all that. Homeless families, you have to remember, are stakeholders too, which they could have been your immediate neighbor. Maybe they are your coworker or relative. And we as elected officials, it's our duty to serve everybody, rich or poor, have a house or a homeless. You have to always remember that. As officials, yes, we have to keep them off our sidewalk. We have to clean and save the sidewalks. But at the same time, we have a duty to our brothers and sisters to get them housing. I work very close with the mayor's office to get a lot of monies for the Abridge home. We're now in round 6, getting hundreds of millions of dollars I got along with my teams for these. So what we can do is we need more board members to come in and join Brandy's efforts and go and do it, not just say, we will do it. We have been, sitting too long not doing it. We have to get to the council to support the mental health and substance abuse assistance programs. We have to address the issues at the roots, not relocate people from somewhere, bust them and get them off the street and say, oh, it's not Porter Ranch streets. This has to stop. We are one, not by a slogan or a slate. We are one because we are one team that work, and you need to join the team and work, not fight the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Assad. Jason.
Thank you, David. Okay. So neighborhood councils allocate their budgets once a year. We're required to allocate our budget into 4 main categories. And one of those categories is outreach, which typically includes community events and other opportunities which get our neighborhood council name out there. So the question is, what types of events or outreach opportunities would you like to see the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council sponsor?
And we'll go reverse. Once again, we'll go ahead and start with Assad.
Yes, well, the Neighborhood Council has done a wonderful job in Earth Day and participating in the Valley disaster preparedness and all that. The one area where I feel we as Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council has not participated in which I fill in on my own time as volunteer time, is to address the interfaith issues. There is a lot of work to be done. I work very close under the Mayor Garcetti programs alongside with Councilwoman Martinez and the other council member to get all the religions together. We are all in one, and we do a lot of marches together to get all the temples, the mosques, all the churches, everybody in harmony together. This is where we lack. I think from the whole board that I know, Mehran and I are the only ones who go actually literally walk the streets. We go to all these houses of God and feed the people, serve them during Thanksgiving and all that. And actually tomorrow we cannot walk it. So we're going to do a virtual walk on Facebook. This is the area we need some outreach events. Right now, you have the groups coming in talking about unity, but they have done zero deliverance on anything to do with unity. And it's opportunity. I'll take the rest of my time to thank Jason and Brandy and the rest and Lori for all the great events they have done for us. I miss, of course, getting together in the park. I still have the cleansers we got with the PRNC name on it to use to reminder. But there is a lot we can do and we have to do. And once re-elected, I will do.
Thank you. Becky, you have the floor. Please unmute yourself.
Am I unmuted?
You're perfect. We're not always touching anything. You got it. Thank you so much.
All righty. Well, there are quite a few different areas that I'm interested in. One is neighborhood watch, community policing, supporting. I know that we have a lot of issues here in Porter Ranch, but I think that we need to reach out and try to unite our community. One of the things I was working on before our former board member, Dick Rippey, his untimely passing, is we were going to create a program for senior citizens or for people who were at home during the day at the local parks. There's so many things to talk about. I'm just going to focus on this. We were going to call it Back to the Sandbox, because we realize as we get to be the elderly, so they call us now, that we return to some of the things that we did in our early childhood, like go to the park, visit with our friends during the day. I find that there are a lot of people who are widows and who are alone. And I thought, we have so much parkland here in Porter Ranch. I think if you put all the parks in the city together, I think we probably are one of the top council districts with the most number of parks. I'd like to create a park program where we meet once a week or once a month, and it's very informal, and we sit and we talk to each other. And we can develop it into a luncheon kind of thing. It can be turned into anything. We used to do concerts in the park. We used to do movies in the park. I'd like to see something for those of us who are at home during the day. Julie, I don't know if you're still working, but I know I'm not. And I'd like to bring our community together that way on a daily basis. And I have other ideas, but I will stop talking.
Thank you, Becky. Brandy, you have the floor, 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'll start by saying I agree with Assad. Most of the interfaith events that I have taken part in have been through the Homelessness Committee, because there's a large homelessness interfaith event. And I'll go to events that Shepherd asks us to be a part of, like when we help. They have a day where they help kids that are foster youth and homeless youth and whatnot. And, I've been part of that. I do wish that there were more members of our board that were involved in some of those things. And I think we could do explicit outreach things to that. But the two that I know I was working toward before COVID, Minan and I think also with Jason on the education committee, we were starting a whole bunch of education outreach, including Minan and I were really spearheading one that was going to focus on special needs education and do an event for special needs children. So that was an outreach space that we were working on that had to be postponed. And honestly, I'd like to see us do a lot more with Aliso. I mean, we've seen all of these mini town halls, both virtually and before COVID in real world spaces that sometimes we were a part of, but I would like to see us do more, because there's so much that this community is so hungry to be a part of and to know more about with Aliso, and we need to be in the forefront of that. I was helping Susan Gorman Chang with the air monitoring committee back in the day. And for a while I was in charge of outreach, so I've done a lot of events. But those are the events that I would like to see more focus on once COVID is over with.
Thank you very much, Brandy. Well, I have two really good ones, which I can't decide which one that I'd like to go with. But since Brandy happened to mention Aliso, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the Aliso in regards to the Aliso Canyon blowout, which happened to be one of the biggest issues for our community. My question to the candidates are, what have you done or what have you been involved with? And what difference have you made for our community since the blowout over the last 5 years? And what is your future projected action plan with this? I'm going to go ahead and start with Brandy.
All right, back on this. Thank you. Reiterating, I was part of the committee with Susan working on the air monitoring. That was my big focus when I started on this board, as far as my efforts with Aliso. And I've worked with the Save Porter Ranch group, and most recently I've been one of the people advocating that our county should in fact use the subpoena power to try and get the chemical list, so we know exactly what chemicals have been in the air. I've actually had, I've been active in this behind the scenes in a lot of interesting spaces, meeting not only with electeds, but also both environmental groups and representatives from SoCal Gas, trying to see if there are crossovers in ways that things that they are okay with and things that the environmentalist community is okay with that would benefit our community and make everybody happy. I very much believe in the idea of build a golden bridge for everyone, find the solution that works for everyone. And that's what I've been trying to do behind the scenes. And there's been some movement. For example, the union workers there, the union leaders that I spoke to, they said they were actually very much on board with shutting down Aliso. And so I've had meetings even at that level. It's an issue I'm active about, and it's an issue I'm very concerned about. I have a family here. I don't want my son to get sick. I don't want anybody to get sick. So I'm going to keep doing this. And I'm going to keep going to the demonstrations. I'm going to keep lobbying our elected officials no matter what. But from my position on the board, it gives me a greater voice to be able to do things like vote in favor of these motions that come forward to do better for our community.
Thank you. Becky, would you like to take the floor?
The SoCal gas blowout was one of the most challenging things that I've ever been through personally. I have reason to believe my husband's life was taken because of it. He became quite ill just before it was announced that it had blown out, and he passed away the following May. I was very involved in his caretaking. To not be able to see across the street was devastating. It has impacted this community in a huge way, and I think that we need to support groups such as CAG and continue in our diligence to get that shut down. And I think whatever it takes, educate ourselves. Not everyone can do the same thing or has the same talents that other people have, but I want to see it shut down. And I educate myself, and I'm on Zoom meetings, and I appreciate all of the expertise that all of you have. I did speak in front of a lot of the state and local agencies during that time, and I still speak out against it, and I still will continue to support shutting it down. So thank you. And I'm really upset about the monitoring system. We need to monitor. I'm home, I'm retired, I can smell it, and it's really upsetting. I smell it daily, and it's very, very upsetting. So we need to continue our passion toward getting it shut down and protecting this community. And not only ours, but Monica Rodriguez's. And I worked in Woodland Hills. We could smell it in Woodland Hills when I went to work. I mean, it wasn't just Porter Ranch. It affected all of us. So I think I applaud everyone on their efforts, and let's move forward. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Assad Al-Najjar, 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you. Well, talk is cheap, but actions mean well. We as board members do not have the privilege to sit and whine and complain and all that. We have to set foot and go and do it. And that's when I joined the PRNC 5 years ago, right after the blowout, because I didn't see that neighborhood council at the time doing much. They were just complaining and no action. And that's why I ran and I became part of the solution rather than just whiner. I had multiple meetings with the various councilmen for the past 5 years in CD12, Mayor Garcetti's office, city attorney's office, county representatives and elected officials. I didn't have the privilege like Sherry or David did to go to Sacramento because of family issues at the time. However, I followed what's going on. The past 24 months, I worked very hard, especially when the CAG was established with the different members. I spend on average sometimes, and they know they are here in our participant, 2 to 3 hours a week trying not just to understand what's going on, but to come out with the effective solution for the best path and to bridge any gaps, anything going on between any of the entities. I even went through to build a model in my garage prototype. Hopefully will make it somehow, somewhere to at least alert me and my family. I rallied when I can get any chance into the streets for shutting it down. And if I had one CD12 as your councilman, I would have shut it down by December 2020. I had an effective plan. And 7 of our board members were on my team and they know what we can do. And right now I'm working very close with Mike Garcia, Congressman Mike Garcia, and Suzette Valdez, our assemblywoman, to get solutions going. And on that note, I am endorsed just now by Congressman Mike Garcia himself, because he knows and believes I can solve the Alicia Canyon with the help of the CAG, the DPH, and the QMD and everybody.
Thank you, Assad. Jason, would you like to ask the last question? I'm going to turn this over pretty soon to Lori. Lori's going to get into the quick Q&A from the community. Do you have a last question?
Sure. And just to mention one more time, if you'd like to submit a question, please put it in the Q&A. Lori is monitoring the Q&A and we'll be asking questions. I think I guess the last question we have, as I mentioned, one of the categories that we allocate for our budget includes community improvement projects. And these are projects that are done in the community to improve our public spaces. What type of project would you like to see in our neighborhood here in Porter Ranch for the neighborhood council to spearhead, either individually or in partnership with another entity?
And we're going to go.
Jason, can you repeat that? It's kind of a
Sure.
long.
No problem. Community improvement projects are one of the categories that we allocate funding for in our budget. And the question is, what type of community improvement projects would you like to see the neighborhood council do here in Porter Ranch?
On that note, we're going to go reverse. So, you know what? We'll mix it up. Becky, would you like to go ahead and start on this one?
I'd be honored. I'm very serious about this. I would really like to see a mosquito abatement program in Porter Ranch, like they had in Sherman Oaks or in that area. You can't even go in the backyard here in the summertime without getting eaten alive. I think that's really important, and I think that we should use neighborhood council money to get the area treated. And I think that should be like a #1 priority when it comes to setting the budget. The other issue is, Jason, I'm your big fan. Tree removal. We're going to have a horrible fire season. We've got to get this dead debris out of here or we are all going to be in trouble. And I don't need a whole lot of time to say all of this, but those are the 2 things that I would really like to see us put our efforts toward. And if any money is left over this year, I would really like it to remove those tree stumps and to remove those dead trees. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. We're going to go ahead with Brandy.
So one of the things I would like to see us do is really take a hard investigation into what additional resources we might need to put in as far as community projects for COVID. I mean, we're increasing the vaccinations, but we're also not seeing the decrease that we were hoping for in cases right now. And the Southern California variant is actually one of the worst ones that's coming out. And we've already spent some money as a neighborhood council to help one of the schools. And I think that we need to look very closely at if there are other things going forward that would be useful, because that's just the biggest issue that we have right now. And it's not going away. The kids aren't going to have vaccines for a while, and variants, we might be able to get boosters that help, but we don't really know, and we won't know a whole lot. So that's one of my primary issues. Beyond that, I agree 100% with Becky that the mosquitoes abatement is a great idea. And I was already going to say, Jason has done a great job constantly advocating for the tree removal. And those are important projects, as well as anything else that can help to make sure we don't end up with more wildfires.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, investigating what we can do as far as COVID, that would be my number one. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. The good news is, Jason, it looks like your agenda item is going to be a hit this on Wednesday. Okay, Assad, please.
All right, thank you.
2 minutes.
Well, thank you, two ladies, for the wonderful presentation. And I think you gave me what we need to have on our next safety meeting. And so I'm not going to get into that since you stole the great ideas already. But the one area I feel, close to my heart, and I know we're not doing much in it, is to enhance on the facilities within our existing parks for our children to have, more of the facilities they could, and especially the challenged children. There isn't much of any facilities for the swings or all that. Also, many of the neighbors tell me that our parks are not pet friendly, or we don't have enough parks for our pets. So some of the money through Streets LA and the Rexham parks are there. However, we need to have our committee chaired by Jason to get more of the support, to get a lot of these facilities enhanced to address more of our children's future. And at the same time, to put some of our money into our area to make it more sustainable, more resilient, and more attractive for the community as a whole. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Assad. All right. I'm going to go ahead and, Jason, I'm going to make Lori the co-host so she can ask the Q&A. Are you, Lori?
I don't think I can still speak, right?
Okay, then you're fine. We'll just
Yeah.
leave it as it is.
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and take it
There's
over?
a couple of anonymous questions here. Normally, I don't ask anonymous attendee questions. Usually we wait for people to identify themselves, but there's a couple of good questions here. The first one being about Aliso Canyon, and I believe we've already spoken enough about that. So I'm going to skip to the next one. Kathleen Edwards of the Northridge West Neighborhood Council asks, do you think it's ethical for one neighborhood council or its members to publicly criticize another neighborhood council or its members, and why or why not? Becky, let's start with you.
I don't think neighborhood council members should criticize each other publicly. I think if they have a problem, they should try to address it first with the person that you have the issue with before you go any further with that. I don't think social media should be used to trash people. So no, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Brandy, you go next.
So I live by a motto of privately criticize, publicly compliment. And in general, that's what I think. Now, what I will say is, not knowing if this is leading to any specific incident that they're talking about, there are times that I do believe it is necessary to speak up. If somebody said something that was disgustingly racist or sexist or homophobic or something like that, then not attacking the person, but attacking their action might be necessary. Standing up and saying, I don't think it's right that we do this because this is harmful to our community in these ways, I think is a valid way to respond to something that is egregious like that. If somebody does something extremely unethical, like embezzling the money from the neighborhood council, for example, as we know has happened, then yeah, standing up and saying that was bad, that was wrong, Beyond that, polite discourse of political disagreement. If a neighborhood council votes in a way that another neighborhood council doesn't like or another board member doesn't like, again, polite discussions about it in the public space is perfectly fine as far as I'm concerned. But personal attacks, personal criticisms, bad mouthing, none of that is ever ethical under any circumstances for any person ever.
Thank you. And Assad?
All right. Thank you, Kathleen, for a great question. And the way I look at it this way, we all have done the code of ethics training. We all know the line that we're not supposed to cross. We know all that next door, you cannot be going, you lose the privilege once you're a neighborhood council board member to attack another council board member. PRNC, and maybe that's because of COVID-19, was under attack and continued attack to date by many other neighborhood councils, our friends of current board members and all that. And as a result, Empower LA realized the problem. And they are in the process for the past 6-7 months discussing the media policy, which I advocated for. I don't think is going to pass, unfortunately, which means our board members within PRNC, our neighboring board members, and they are probably, I don't know if they're listening or not, they are also binded by the code of ethics. This needs to stop. You cannot be cyberbullying people and then come and say, the bully comes and say, oh, I'm being cyberbullied. And, you know, this is terrible. Yes, it's okay. We disagree on items. It's okay to disagree on points, but that is not to fight over in next door and start slamming people with slanderous accusations, accusing people of, you know, that you have your own agenda and all that. This hate has to stop. The buck stops here. We are all, you know, together to solve problems and not create problems.
Let's move on to the next question. I'm going to start with you again, Assad, because I believe it basically is probably referring to you. Do you think it's appropriate for a person who works for the city to vote on neighborhood council decisions, or could that be considered a conflict of interest? Why or why not?
Right. So I always get asked that question. I got asked that question when I ran first for the neighborhood council before. I got asked that question when I ran for CD12, you know, and it depends what your position is and what you're doing and what you're voting on. If there is any conflict of interest, immediately I'll pull myself out. My involvement has been in the design and engineering of a lot of the large-scale projects, meaning to do with the traffic, with the street lighting, with the, right now, the trains. And in between, I was doing 10 years of community service in which I was getting your calls on the 311 and fixing the street lights, stopping the wire theft. So my day job complemented what I do over here in the neighborhood council, because within those 7 years, I didn't just deal with PRNC. I represented my department dealing the 99 neighborhood councils. And right now, my previous assistant who promoted to my old position is addressing the issues for the 99 neighborhood councils. What I'm doing here is a bridge. And historically, we had one of the mayor's office representatives on the neighborhood council itself. There is no conflict because I don't deal with anything that is outside and could be considered conflict. Thank you.
Brandy, over the next.
So we have a system in place, excuse me, we have a system in place to help people discern if they have a conflict of interest. And, you know, it is, I think, correct, as Assad pointed out, that depending on your position would change whether any particular issue is a conflict of interest rather than board as a whole is necessarily a conflict of interest. For example, I don't think somebody who's working on traffic lights is going to be in a conflict when talking about whether or not voting whether or not a business should be allowed to expand a liquor license, or whether or not we give funding to a school. So it's funny because I've actually been wondering about this. Like, what if, say, Henry Stern or John Lee or somebody wanted to run for neighborhood council because, you know, Henry Stern can't run for city council and still be state senator because there's laws preventing that. But the way things are set up right now, there's nothing specifically requiring that they not be on the NC, which is kind of a demonstration of the really bad gray area that NC board members are in, that we are both electeds and non-electeds at the same time. And I think the heart of this question really comes around to the city needs to figure out if we are electeds or if we are not electeds and treat us as such. So if we're not electeds, we shouldn't have to worry about things like the Brown Act as examples. If we are electeds, then that opens up a whole bunch of different things that we have to have as requirements. And so, yeah, I think probably at the heart of your question is that the city needs to figure out and correct parts of the charter to really stop having us be in this nebulous gray area of what are we.
Okay, thank you. Becky, do you have a chance to answer that question?
Okay, I think the whole conflict of interest can apply in a lot of situations. I know asking a question of someone, you can't ask someone, should you recuse yourself from this vote? So instead of asking them if they should recuse, you would ask them another question, hoping that they would get the message that maybe you shouldn't vote on this, because if a motion comes up and you should have recused yourself and you didn't, it dies. And it dies until everyone on the board is off the board. And there's not a real clear area if you work for the city, if you're allowed to make motions or vote on motions, and does it put things in jeopardy? Doesn't it put things in jeopardy? These are a lot of gray areas that I think we're all talking about. And the other issue, you know, that concerns me is if you are a person who has a lawsuit against SoCal Gas and you are a member of the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council, and there is financial gain potentially at the end of that lawsuit, are you allowed to even participate in discussion about the SoCal Gas blowout? And that's a big concern for me, that people could be challenged on. So the city needs to take a stand. It's a very gray area. I don't think people should take credit for doing things in a community when it's their job to do it. But that being said, it's a very gray area.
Okay, thank you. Now, Phil Minton has two big questions here. I believe you've kind of all mentioned in earlier answers what you've done for this community. But if you can come up with one or two concrete bullets of what you've done as a member of the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council in the past. Brandy, why don't I start with you?
Sure. I was particularly proud of the holiday party I ran. It was a big success, so that was one I was particularly proud of. My general work on the homelessness committee as a whole, I know that's a broad thing, but there's been so many little specifics from delivering food to people, to helping some people get services that they need, to helping educate the community at large in various different ways. That just kind of whole thing is one of my big pride and joys. I think one aspect of something that I really give to the board that the board benefits from is my experience as a mediator and relationship maintenance and repair. So, you know, it's hard because when you're on this kind of a public position and your job is to be there for the stakeholders, you sometimes have to sit there and have an angry stakeholder, whether it's a community member or leader of an organization or even elected official representative, can sometimes be screaming in your face and angry about they don't like the position you took, or they don't like the vote the way it went, or most of the time they don't like something that had absolutely nothing to do with you. But it's your responsibility to listen to that person and make sure they feel heard, and if necessary and possible, advocate for whatever is necessary to help fix their problem. So I've been doing that for so long, and not in just small ways, but for example, when I took over the homelessness committee, one of the very first things I did was another homeless committee for another NC had just gotten into a big fight with a member of my committee. that had nothing to do with me, but I went to the committee and I apologized and I listened and I stayed there for hours at their meeting. And by the time we left, they were all happy and rainbows and hugging me. So, making sure that our board is seen as a both respectable space and also a space that helps people is a main part of something I'm proud of.
Thank you. Assad?
Here it is. I found my using Zoom too much. I lost where is the unmute button. Okay, so very good question. I mean, the list is big, but I'll put the ones.
Answer, please.
Yeah.
Very quick one.
Okay, so the biggest one is I would have to say the Alicia Canyon. And, we're close to reaching a resolution and getting an air monitoring system somehow, somewhere deployed and working close with the CAG and the DPH and the other, officials, and with the help of our congressmen and the assemblywoman, we will get this resolved soon. Maybe some people think we're doing baby steps, or maybe some people think we're in the infancy, or however, I feel as a team, we are accomplishing a lot, and hopefully, within the next 4 to 6 weeks, we get the monitoring system going, we get the health study issues that's stumbling moving, and so that's the Alicia Canyon one. That, I feel I've done a lot of progress in it, along with the teamwork. The other one, it's the issues with the speeding and the traffic. Yes, we're slow, and this is an opportunity. I thank the Valley Traffic and LAPD Devonshire and all the SLOs for all the work they've done. We had captured a lot of the speeders. We have got a lot of them. CD12 is giving us money for more equipment, and hopefully soon we will have more a lid on it.
30 seconds.
Yes, and the other one is bridging your needs to City Hall. I spoke a couple of times at the Board of Public Works on behalf of PRNC for the traffic light we just got, like the Vineyard. And when I talk about the safety, they expedited the work and we have it now. Also, when we had issues with Amigo and Rinaldi, I reached out to David Lasher, our new co-chair for safety, and he resolved it with Caltrans and LADOT. Thank you.
Thank you. Phil Hampton also has another question. He says, at the community building and networking level, what are each of your thoughts on launching community-based extracurricular activities where the junior associations can form their own co-ed teams, like softball, to bring a new excitement and energy to Porter Ranch? How would you go about doing this as a council member, and would you financially support this endeavor? Becky, do you want to start?
Well, no, Laura, was I supposed to be included in that last question?
I'm sorry, I thought you were. Did I miss you? I'm sorry.
I don't think I was.
I'm sorry, Becky. I thought you answered it already. Okay, go for it.
Repeat
Go
it
ahead.
for me, please. Would you mind?
The three, basically, we're looking for the top 3 things you've completed in the community in the past for the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council.
For the Porter Ranch, well, for the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council, I spearheaded the Porter Ranch Community K through 8 span school. I got it started and I fought for it before anybody ever thought to fight for it. I organized it, all the meetings, and we were very successful, and I'm very proud of that achievement. I feel it's one of the great achievements of my life to have been able to participate at that level in such a project. I also started, I'd like to get a little bit more to neighborhood watch and community policing on the door-to-door level and meeting with people in neighborhoods. I have done that. I have been a chairperson for our basic car over the past. I co-wrote the community policing manual that's used throughout the city, the state, the country, and it's used in foreign countries. I was one of the co-writers of that manual. It's still being used, and I wrote it in when I first started on the neighborhood councils. I was a citywide co-chair for CPAP at its inception. While I was on the neighborhood council, I represented the entire city along with Chief Williams and with Mayor Reardon, and at the arena where we had over 1,000 people from every single neighborhood in the city of Los Angeles sitting under one roof trying to decide where to go from here after Rodney King. I've helped lay just recently the school Palamesa. all of the golf course area of Porter Ranch, it was repaved, except for one section of one street. And they contacted me, and the reason for that is appalling. I worked for 3 years to get that done, and about a year ago, the city came in and finally repaved it. They only did not pave one small section of the northern part of Palamasa in the golf course area. It's now paved. So those are a couple things that I wanted to mention. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that, Becky. So again, if you heard me last, the next question, basically looking at extracurricular activities where junior associations can form their own co-ed teams like softball, probably another park issue. How would you go about doing this as a board member? Would you financially support this endeavor? Assad?
All right, well,
I think
I'll try to answer in a way, but not too much because it's part of a discussion I think is coming on Wednesday. But the timing of the question is great. Councilwoman Monica Rodriguez, alongside with Mayor Garcetti, about 2 weeks ago, started into the youth programs, and there will be a youth program department, sort of comparable and parallel to Empower LA. We as PRNC, David and I have been getting in the incubator of, there is an ad hoc committee for youth, and we'll be discussing a full committee, and I don't want to talk too much about it. It's an agenda item. But the way it is, the city is heading towards getting funding to finance the youth. And once we have our youth committee, we will work with it, the 11 board members with this youth committee, to learn from them what their needs are and to facilitate for them how to proceed with it and, you know, sort of help them out. The finance is going to be there. The ideas and the concept have to come from them. And the engineering, hopefully they depend on an old engineer like myself to give them some concept and ideas. The PRCS, yes, when we working on the designs, I contributed the way how to get the traffic going in, the solar panels you see in the parking lots, even to the way the structure is and all that.
30 seconds.
But yeah, so we're heading there, and we are on, I don't want to stay, we're on step 0. I would like to stay, we're level A, B, and already on C for a committee. Thank you.
Okay, Becky, I'm sorry about that. Go for it. You can answer second.
Oh, Lori, it's okay. I like you. I know you like me. You know, Philip, I'm not real familiar with your question. I'd like to say that, but I will tell you that I've been involved with Northridge Little League since 1980. Softball, baseball, our family is very involved. I have 3 sons that went through that program. I have 1 son that runs a program for the city of Los Alamitos for basketball youth. And is very involved in that. I have another son who is in the major leagues. He is a major league pitching coordinator for the St. Louis Cardinals. Sports is my life. If we can find a way to bring sports to Porter Ranch, I'm your girl, because I breathe, live, eat, and drink baseball, softball, football, basketball. So any sports activities here for these kids in this, and I will also tell you just really quickly, the basketball at the Porter Ranch Community School, the gym, that's because of me. I broke down and cried in front of the district, and they said, okay, you can have the gym, but you can't have the pool. I said, I can live without the pool, but I can't live without the gym. And so anything you need with sports, I'm on it.
Okay, great. I'm sorry, go ahead, Brandy.
Okay. You have a hard job.
She does.
Yeah, so something I haven't talked about before, but when I was a little kid, one of my first jobs when I was like 10, I was living in Idaho, and we had the farm team for the Atlanta Braves, and I worked every summer selling programs, and I would walk the entire way around that stadium, you know, screaming in the stands, programs, and I sometimes dressed up as the mascot and stuff, and, you know, wouldn't do that today, but so I was very much into baseball as a kid, and I even wanted to be in playing baseball in high school, and I was one of the best pitchers in my class, but my high school at the time would not allow girls to be on baseball teams, and softball has a different form of pitching than baseball, so I couldn't play. But my son is very athletically inclined. He's 6, so I don't know how young these groups will start, but the idea of having something that he could eventually do is great. And if he can do it right away, better. So I like to support that. I saw in your question you asked about financial support, and so I do want to just take a moment to talk about the way that neighborhood councils operate in terms of funding things. So it sounds like a lot of this funding might come from other sources as far as the city, but there might be something like one of the organizations might need extra money for uniforms or something, and then they can bring a neighborhood purpose grant to us, and we can vote on that. And for things like that, we vote for it very often, and this sounds like the kind of thing I would likely vote for. But there are restrictions, so we'd have to make sure that there was somehow our name being promoted, because that's what the city requires of us. We can't just say, hey, this is a great thing, we're just going to give it $50,000. We have to go through this process that the city
That's
has required.
fine.
But yeah,
Okay.
I would support it otherwise.
Thank you, Brandy.
Greg Galante asks, how do you view the neighborhood councils and your own role? More of an extension of the city government back to the people, or representing the people back to the city government? If you like that one, Brandy, go for it.
Say it again, okay?
Yeah, both. I'm very much in favor of exactly this. I actually had a conversation with a couple of Congress members a few years back where I said, what do you see your position as having to just do whatever your community thinks in the majority is correct thing to do, or do you see yourself as advocating to explain to the community why you think this is the right thing to do? And so that's kind of a key political science type of question and philosophy. And for me, it kind of does lie on both. A lot of our job is disseminating information and programs and such down to the community, like this thing with the health study right now, making sure people know in our community, by the way, you should know, you can go right now and put public comment on DPH's plan. And so letting you know, so you have that avenue, is one part of our job. But it is also the other way, that when our community comes to us and says, hey, we want to subpoena have the county subpoena for the chemical list, vote for letters and tell the city council members, we want you to support resolutions for this. So it is a two-way street, and it should be a two-way street. So great question. I just say both.
Great. Becky, did you want to go second on that?
Sure. I think that the most important thing that we have to all remember is why we're here. We're here to advocate on behalf of the people to our city council member, who is John Lee. That's the main thing that we do. We can bring in state, federal, all of that, but our main job, what we were elected to do, was to advocate on behalf of our community and to work with our council office and to have good relationships, and not to say that we have to not disagree, but agree not to be disagreeable. And I think that that's the main thing that neighborhood councils have to keep in mind. We are not omnipotent. We can't do everything, but we are advocates. And I think that we need to look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Assad?
So in a way, that's a confusing answer, Becky, but
Not
we
gonna-
are to bridge. Excuse me, it's my time. We are the bridge for our councilmen, and we complement the work of our councilmen. We are the bridge of the stakeholders to the city hall. However, as the wise man, our former Isam told me always and all that, which side of the table you want to be. As elected officials, we are binded by whatever the city attorney tell us to do or not to do, which put us in a bind, because if you come out with an issue that we as the board, the PRNC, have to take to the city hall, and the city attorney does not like it, that's where the buck stops. And it puts us in a awkward position, because now either we're elected to represent you, or we are just elected and we had to put a gag order on us. And it's a dilemma. There is a lot of issues that I would like to bring to Councilman Lee, to Mayor Garcetti, to the whole council. But before going that route, I have to run it by the city attorney. And this is one of the question items that I'm going to personally ask Mike Fura when he's going to visit us in our May meeting. It is, where does the line stands? You come to me, regardless what I think as Assad in the issue that you're bringing in. My duty is to take this issue and deliver to the city hall, regardless what's in it. I sit in the board public works and I hear so many of the, exotic words, and I cannot say anything, just smile, and I cannot respond. Same thing here. We will try to work with you. We will try to represent the stakeholders, but we have no clearance from city attorney at a lot of times. And that's not only PRNC, that's a lot of our neighboring councils. But we will continue to work one way or another. If they close a door, we find a window to go in from, or another door, or bring a sign. Thank you.
Okay, and my final question is really a restatement of Bill Minton's original question. I want to ask, as you know, Porter Ranch has been growing quite steadily. We've got a lot of new homes coming and so on. What do you see as your vision for this Porter Ranch community? And as a council member, how will you achieve that mission? What is of that vision? Becky, do you want to start? Like, what do you see you doing for the community going forward?
What do I see the board doing for the community?
Right.
The most important thing that I think that the board does is to communicate with our stakeholders, with the people who live here. Porter Ranch is primarily a bedroom community with very few businesses, which is kind of a unique place to be. Where I think what I would like to see, we have, I think, done a good job with a lot of the issues, especially with the gas blowout, and we need to continue those efforts. We've had COVID, we've been devastated. People are in their homes, children like Brandy's child, my grandchildren, they're home. I think we need to work as a neighborhood council to do whatever we can to get these kids back into school. Like I said, I'd like to have more socialization between the community. I'd like to see the committees have stakeholders on them, not just board members. I'd like to see more outreach. Those are some of the things that I would really like to work on, and to unify the community. And I'd like to do the telephone calls again. I think those really worked well. And another thing is to hire someone to put things on people's porches, letting them know what's going on with the neighborhood council. Not everybody in this community is computer literate. We have a huge population up here that doesn't know how to use a computer very well. And I think we aren't addressing that. I think we're expecting everybody to have a computer. There's no rule that says you have to be on a neighborhood council. If you're on a neighborhood council, you need to be computer literate. There's no rule saying that, but if you're not computer literate, you're left out. It's like you're deaf. And those are the things that I'd like to address.
Okay. Brandy?
So reading the question, talking about what is your vision for Porter Ranch. First and foremost, I think that Porter Ranch is a fantastic place to be a test bed for improving sustainability and cleaner energy, which means starting with shutting down Aliso Canyon. But beyond that, there's things that the city wants to do. And I think we're a good space for pilot programs to get to a 100% clean space, like the asphalt program, where they're putting down certain kinds of asphalt that will reduce what's called the urban heating effect and make it so that we don't have to crank up our AC all the time when it gets really hot out here, as we all know. More and more sunroof and solar panel installations to have that be a better source of energy. And at some point, if we do shut down Aliso and we do get rid of natural gas, then we're going to need to start retrofitting the housing and replace it. And those are things that I think we are primed to be the pilot programs for, and to build to that more sustainable future. In terms of the second thing would be dealing with the homeless situation. We're privileged of being probably I think the smallest, according to the last survey prior to COVID. We have the smallest number of homeless in the different districts of Los Angeles. So I think that pilot programs that start here, and things like getting faster response times and improved triage and things like that, this is a good community to start in because the problem is smaller. And we have a lot of seniors that are homeless and a lot of seniors in general. So we need to do a better job about making our community more senior friendly and more disabilities friendly. But the last really large one I want to bring up quickly is, you know, we've seen these issues with AAPI hatred, and we have a large Asian community. I've heard from stakeholders talking about one woman in particular, her sad story about when her family was put into the internment camps because her family's Japanese. And that was right here in Los Angeles. I've heard from stakeholders talking about facing things like anti-Semitism and
Simon,
other
you can wrap
forms of
it up.
discrimination. And I would like our community, because we are a diverse community, to do a better job of talking about and having events of unity so that we're not just pocketed off where this kind of misunderstandings can create these kind of horrible outcomes of discrimination and
Right,
racism.
thank you.
So that's my view.
Assad?
Yes, thank you. Well, unfortunately, at this time, we don't have a clear vision with a vision statement, because this board inherited, you know, the big monster, the Alicia Canyon, and we've been, you know, in between trying to get it. Then we inherited the other issue, which we're tackling not only in our neighborhood council, but citywide, the homelessness. So hopefully, you know, we are in a position now where we could do innovation. And, you know, the motto above my head, you see, leadership, innovation, and diversity, is not a slogan that you dump on a paper and you put in a newspaper. I believe the vision that I'll push for is the innovation, because our Porter Ranch needs innovation for 100% green and smart city. And I have been doing my portion from my work, and I got the LED street lights, and I was part of the team that delivered the coal asphalt in other areas outside Porter Ranch, but it's coming soon to Porter Ranch. I delivered EV chargers, and there will be future smart monitoring systems in addition to whatever the air monitoring system coming in. And there is a lot to come in. And historically, a lot of these where Porter Ranch was the incubator. When I installed the first solar bus stop, it was the corner of Porter Ranch and Rinaldi. When I installed the first 150 solar to grid, it was Corbin and Porter Ranch Drive and Cessna. So my contribution to the new vision, to the vision we have to put forth in July, is going to be the innovation portion of it. And I will let my colleagues deal with other portion of the vision as a team. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason, do we have any other questions? Came into you.
Sure, I can ask a question. So the neighborhood council in the past has partnered with various nonprofits, various city organizations, other neighborhood councils. We get a lot of participation by other neighborhood council board members. So my question is, what do you feel is the most important, or you can give more than one if you'd like, collaboration with or partnership with other organizations, whether it be the city, neighborhood councils, things like that? I'm happy to repeat it if it, what partnerships do you envision for the neighborhood council?
So who do you want first?
Can you continue to call on people, Lori? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, let's go with Becky on this one.
Okay, well, there are so many, Jason. I mean, solid supporters of law enforcement in Devonshire, helping our police officers, police athletic league supporters, pals. But what comes to mind also is the YMCA. We need to get that open. They take care of a lot of Porter Ranch children. And I think we need to make a move toward getting the schools open and safe, and getting the Y open and giving people things to do, making sure the parks are clean. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think first and foremost, these kids are suffering. And if you can't afford to put your kid in a private school, your kid, you know, it's not right. And I think the YMCA feels a huge void in taking care of our children after school hours, and they could be doing it now on the campuses outside. If the teachers don't want to go back, let the Y take over the schools again and at least get them back on the playground. You know, back to the sandbox. What can I say? That's it.
Okay, thank
Over and
you.
out.
Assad?
Yes, excellent question, Jason. And it's for me, it's two parts. There is the partnerships with our other NCs, and that's where I thank you for the projects you've done jointly, the utility box and all that with other NCs. And I like the way the whole team handled when we did the debate. This was an excellent teamwork. I like a lot of these little projects where you bring all the NCs together in one and do it and deliver with, right to the point and serve everybody around you. Now, when it comes to the NPGs, we try to help a lot of our schools. We try to help a lot of our programs. I think the area we're sort of lacking with is to get some of the funding or the partnerships to help the homeless. Brandy's committee doesn't get a lot of support. Brandy's committee needs a lot of us to physically come in and help, and not just say, oh, this is a homeless person, I cannot come close to them, they might do this to me and that. We have to be a more understanding teamwork. Yes, safety comes first. And recently when we realized LAPD Devonshire Station opening, our PRNC donated part along with the other NCs to get a lot of the COVID-19 requirements built up. And as we go, I encourage all these little projects because, little money can go a lot. And then if you put the seed money, probably others will provide you with the cost for the water for that seed. And then you grow the task. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Brandy?
So to me, everything funnels, in my perspective, through what is best for the stakeholders in general. So as far as what kind of groups do we make alliances with or work with or whatnot, it depends on what particular issue we're focusing on. I think we've done a good job, and I really like when we do events that either work with the schools, the firefighters, LAPD, government officials, because that helps us fulfill one of our responsibilities of bringing this conglomerate of so many services and things that are impacting our stakeholders' every day-to-day lives back to the stakeholders so that they can have a voice and an understanding of what's going on. But then on the flip side, our other job of advocating, I think, works better when we work in collaboration with allied neighborhood councils and the committees come together and things like that. So to me, the biggest thing that we can always do is making allies out of enemies. So if there's ever a contention, like we saw with the recent meeting where DPH and CAG had differing opinions and we supported both of them coming together and giving them the time to speak on those issues, that's the best kind of collaboration we can have, because it's delivering to the stakeholders all the information that we can, fairly and balanced from as many different sides as are necessary, and supporting the community through that means, taking that and then advocating back to the city and saying, this is what our community wants, this is what our community needs, and getting the allies to support us as a whole. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, and then there are a few other questions in the system. If anybody wants to answer anything privately, that's up to them. I believe we're getting a little bit tired now. David, do you want final statements? What is the next step?
I'm going to ask one last question, then we're going to move on to final statements and give everybody a break for the rest of the day. But I have something. This is more on the ethical, and so I just want to get. And I'm glad that we really have the board members here. So, we listen to a lot of issues that come to the city council in which stakeholders and as well as board members ask us to write community impact statements, which sometimes are against what we believe in. And to clarify, so if there's a council motion that you're in favor in or not in favor of, what do you do? Well, my question is, what will you do and why? Will you be in favor of it if you're completely against it? Or if you're completely against it, would you just go along with it to be in favor for it? Randy, would you like to start?
Sure, that's a really good question. Okay, so I will always advocate my position on something, but I have at times put what I thought might be personal interests or things that I thought might be more of my something that is impacting more to me than to the community. I'll set aside and say, okay, if, for example, we wanted to build something that we want to spend money on something that won't impact me at all. Something in the park that I would never use and that has no interest to me whatsoever. I don't have any reason to be against it, except maybe I want to use that money for something else. So I might start from there and be a little skeptical, but if it's like, no, everybody's really for this and it doesn't hurt our community, it helps our community, then yeah, I'll change my mind. And I've changed my mind on issues before. What I won't do is go along with what everybody else says when I don't think it's right. As an example, I believe I was, according to the count, the only one who was in stark opposition to the bylaws change that we voted on that would take voting rights away from workers in our community who were not business owners. And I remember advocating and saying, we have teachers and police officers and firefighters, and this is after COVID started, so essential workers that deserve the right to continue voting and running in our elections. And didn't matter that everybody else voted a different way. I was very strong on this, and I voted my conscience, and I voted what I thought was in the best interest of the stakeholders. So I don't just shift with the winds, but I've changed my opinion on things because somebody convinced me, and I'm open to being convinced. I am always open to being convinced. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Becky? Please unmute.
Sorry, Becky, I muted you because we're getting
Thanks a lot.
feedback. We're getting some feedback. I was trying to, sorry about that. Go ahead.
David, would you mind just to kind of rephrase that? I'm not quite sure where you're going with that. Oh, can he unmute him?
There you go. I'm there. All right. So the neighborhood council and the city council, we get a lot of issues that come to the boards, and we're asked to write community impact statements. And sometimes we're 100% against of what we believe in. And to clarify, if we're opposed to a council motion, but the other people are in favor of it, how do you justify your vote? I mean, are you focused on doing what's right for the community? Do you feel strongly about an issue and you'll be steadfast and hard pressed? It's just a question on, how you feel about sometimes when we are dealing with a community impact statement.
Well, I think first of all, you always want to do what's best for the community. You take how you feel about it into account, but our job is to represent the community. That's one thing. The other thing is, I think a good way to handle it is to have an ad hoc committee or a special meeting. Or a community, I'm at loss for the word right now, but a meeting of stakeholders to see where they're coming from and then take a vote and then maybe use that as your guideline. But I really do think that we're here to represent the people and not ourselves, not our special interests. I know I may feel one way about doing something and you may feel another, but I really think it's the whole that we have to look at. It's the whole group, not just the individual. So I would question it, and I'd have a meeting, and I wouldn't just be pushed into something. And I think even on our board not too long ago, we had someone bring something up where there hadn't been very much outreach to the community. And I think, I was not in favor of doing one. So I think that you need to do outreach with that. It's a good question, David.
Thank you. Assad?
Yes, so the community impact statement is meant to help the council, city council, understand where the people are coming from. And a lot of neighborhood councils doesn't realize there is an area in the every week in the meetings for the Department of Public Works in which the neighborhood council can go and represent the community impact statement with unlimited time. There is no time limit for an NC to go and discuss the community impact statement at the Board of Public Works. With that said, I would follow our democratic system. We handle a lot of the time propositions and measures. When you vote on it on the ballot, there is the cons and the pros. So rather than going in and we at the 11 decide in between us and all that, we would submit a community impact statement that helps our councilman understands where the community are. Here is the cons, here is the pros, here is what the community feel and why they feel that way. And with that, the councilman can always come back and have a town hall to better understand. You have to remember, we are the bridge and we shouldn't be the 11 of us in a CIS going in and making a big decision. When it comes to big decisions, use the democratic system. Give your councilman the support and the bridge effect that you are supposed to do. If you know, yeah, if you sit and argue and say, okay, 5 of the 6 are opposing or 6 of 5 is favor and all that, at the end of the day, the stakeholders' voice is stopped here and it shouldn't. You deliver as is, the cons and the pros, and let your councilman understand where the community exactly at. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lori, do we have any other questions in the Q&A before we ask for
I'd
final
rather-
comment?
We'd rather go on to final statements and in this essence of time. It probably worked out that we had only 3 folks stay because we are kind of pushing to our limits here.
We are, so very good. So I'm going to go ahead and ask the candidates, would anybody like to start on the final first? Raise a hand. Okay, then Assad, I'll ask you to start since you would start with an A. Would you please? And then we'll go late.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the panel, the board, the audience for this event. And it's been really a learning experience because it gave me an opportunity to understand each of the 8 other candidates running beside me. Where do they stand, what their priorities are, and if they are willing to come and step up and give opinions rather than just casting stones and running away in the dark. Through my careers, the past 3 decades, I lived by the motto you see above: leadership, innovation, diversity. Our Porter Ranch needs continued leadership with a clear, focused vision that is result-oriented, task-focused, and clear of any hidden agendas, hostile takeovers, all of these attempts or, trying to get conflicts of interest plugged in. Our Porter Ranch and City of LA needs innovation for a 100% green and smart city. And, and I said earlier, I delivered through my LED streetlights and solar grid, and I will continue to do that to get green resilient solutions. Last, diversity. This is a term that I developed personally through my years of genuine service from the heart into interfaith efforts alongside leaders such as Congressman Garcia, Mayor Garcetti, international ambassadors, Councilwoman Martinez that walked the walk with me to get our temples, synagogue, churches, and mosques all together. You all heard of us tonight, and you are asked to vote for the best candidates that will serve our Porter Ranch. I can humbly say, and attested by hundreds of people, no candidate in this race has the hand-on experience and proven track record I do. I've been City LA volunteer and worker for 32 years. I served Porter Ranch as a volunteer for 18 years. And I would like your vote to continue re-engineering Porter Ranch and for an innovative, sustainable, resilient Porter Ranch. Vote Assad, and thank you. And I appreciate all of you.
Thank you. Brandy Grace, you have the floor.
Thank you, David. And to start and also end for me, I would like to thank the committee for putting this on and thank all of my board members for everything that we've all done all this time together. And I'd really like to thank all the attendees for taking time out of your Saturday to come and to listen to us. And you know, it's wonderful that you're so involved that you would take the time to care, because sadly most people don't. And that is one of the things that we need to fix, which is spending more time on that kind of outreach to make sure that people are aware of it and aware of what we do, because you talk to a lot of people, they've never heard of a neighborhood council. And that's a problem that I'm continuing to strive to fix. As far as my candidacy, you know, it's ironic. We were joking at the beginning of COVID that I seemed prescient, because one of my, prior to that, I was running for office and campaigning. And one of my things I kept talking about was we needed to have better infrastructure to support more work from home, because that would help us clean up the community. And we all worked from home for a while, and magically LA got clean for like a week. So I'm very much a policy person. I'm a policy wonk, as they call it. So I'm somebody who comes in and brings a lot of information about what we can do. And I'm very active. There are some members in the NC system who do nothing. They take a board seat and they just sit there. I've never been that person. I'm always hyperactive. And on top of that, I represent a very minority voice in the entire NC system as a parent with a special needs child. So I think I bring a lot to the board, but ultimately it'll be up to our voters to decide if they want me to continue. And I hope you do. And if anybody wants to ask me questions personally, I'm always happy to answer them. My campaign email is brandy, brandii.grace, Grace, at live.com. And you can also contact me at my PRNC email, brandygrace@prnc.org. So please feel free to reach out anytime. You're the only reason I'm here. So thank you again, everybody.
Thank you, Brandy.
Thank you, Brandy. Becky, would you close out our candidate forum for us? You have the floor.
Unmute.
Good. She's good. Oh, she was good.
There I am.
There you go.
I'll do the very best that I can. I believe it's important for all of us to be relevant to the community that we serve. I am the eldest of 6 children. My mother adopted 5 or 6 foster children throughout our lifetime, and she also took in hundreds of children who did not have families and homes and who were abused. My husband came from a family of 7, and they were not a rich family, but they all succeeded in life. I would like to be a part of the success of Porter Ranch with my experience. I think that we all have gifts. I have certain gifts. I don't have all the gifts like Brandy and maybe Assad and Jason and Lori and David have, but I have gifts, and I'd like those to be recognized and used to their fullest extent. And I think a diversity of the community and the board that we serve, diversity helps us to make, and I'm not talking racial, I'm not talking necessarily cultural, I'm talking diversity of thinking. To unify Porter Ranch, to do what's best for Porter Ranch, and to ensure the safety of our children. And especially, you know, it's not just traffic safety. It's the safety of these children with the high suicide rates going on. I mean, I have 2 kids who are teachers. It's terrible. My grandkids are all in private school. None of our kids are in school here. We're targeting a certain group of people. We need to change that. And once my dream, now my reality is to be a part of the success of Porter Ranch and to support. You know, I'm in agreement with the people on my slate. I like a lot about what I heard today. And take your vote and use it wisely. That's all I ask. I don't care if I get elected. I want you to elect the right people. Thank you.
And I will have final statement. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the candidates. I want to thank all our stakeholders. I want to thank my election committee, and I can't thank everybody enough. And I thank everybody in Porter Ranch, and I really encourage all the people to come out and vote. And I will let you know that I have asked the City of Los Angeles and the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment to allow me one day to try and do physical outreach to the community. And I'm fighting for it. So if it does come to fruition, I've asked them to give me one day in front of the library where I can check and facilitate getting ballots out to the community by checking licenses and the second IDs and try and get more people to vote. So if that does come to fruition for the candidates, I will let you know. But I am fighting tooth and nail to get more people to vote. On that note, I'd like to thank everybody and bid you a good night.
Good night.
Well,
Good night, everybody.
thank you everyone for being here.
Gloria, thank you guys for doing this.
Thank you all, and ladies, pleasure to see you. Randy, Becky, Jason,
you,
and
Asad.
David,
Thank
and
you.
Lori, thank
Everybody.
you very much. And it's
Have a great
been fun.
weekend.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone. Have a good